BSA have now obviously got, they've got a box of names that they bought, haven't they? That's part of the package. So they're going through these box and thinking what name suits. Right, hello everybody, Two-Wheel Rider here in Two-Wheel Rider Towers, which is getting more and more full up with junk by the day. Oh dear. So, two parts of this episode, although I will be presenting them here. So the second part is going to be about those three bikes at EICMA, that BSA Thunderbolt, the Bullet 650, and also that the Norton Manx R, which I think is a really great bike. So I'll talk about those in the second half. It's not going to be an extensive video, but first part really is to, in the first instance, say a great thanks to everybody, because we've broken through the 16,000 subscriber mark, which is amazing really. And there's an interesting statistic about this, that once you get to 15,000 subscribers, that puts you in the, which is a bizarre statistic, it puts you in the top 3% YouTube channels in the world. Now that might sound, hang on, 15,000 subscribers. I nearly spat my coffee out when I read that one, but there's about 165 million, I'll say that again, 165 million YouTube channels in the world. And not that many go over 1,000 subscribers, they sort of mill around that area. And the big milestone is 15,000. Once you get to that, you're then in the top 5 million. That's all, just top 5 million channels. So it's just really to say thanks everybody for supporting it. There's lots of regular subscribers out there. We have about 26% of people that subscribe to the channel, which is a really good statistic. I know early on it was about sort of 9%, but it's grown. And that's great, and that's a really good statistic for the channel. So thanks to all you lot, Ian, Mike, Chris, who I met, and all you really great subscribers that always comment regularly. And if I do anything wrong, you always let me know. It's always constructive, and if things go well, you always praise it and say it's great. And there's such a great community now. So just a big thank you to all of you for keeping the channel supported the way that it is. And with that, I've decided to just progress the channel a little bit in terms of how I structure it now, because I think we've been going since January last year. So we've had about 20 months, something like that, is it? So I thought it'd be good to change things a little bit. We're going to keep the Wednesday, Saturday episodes going. So that's how we're still going to do the 2 episodes. But what I thought I'd do for the Wednesday episode, and I'll be putting the new intro on for this one, because I think some of you might get a little bit fed up with the length of the intro, but I am keeping that. But I will change it slightly. But the Wednesday's episode, I'm going to call the Wednesday Bike Chat, and that's going to be really centered around important subjects to bikers, whether that's, about buying bikes, or, I've done things about insurance and all that sort of stuff, and also going out to meet people and talking about their biking experiences. So it's a real chat-based thing, but obviously there'll be a little bit of riding involved in it, but it's a real sort of chat-based episode on the Wednesday now. So the first one of those will be next Wednesday. And that's why I actually revisit the Bantam and actually discuss some of the comments around the Bantam, the BSA Bantam, and also BSA in general. And so there'll be sort of like Roundtree chats, that sort of chat that we do, Roundtree and the Sussex Bench and From the Rock when I'm in France. So it's going to be that kind of episode. And then Saturday's episode, it's going to be pretty much everything else, but there's going to be more reviews on there. That's where all the bike reviews will be, kit reviews, stuff that I'm using, things that I think it's worth you knowing about, and some of the ride outs and all that sort of thing. So the reviews will always be on the Saturday episode rather than the Wednesday. So you're going to get a chat on a Wednesday, and I remind everybody, if there's a subject you want me to cover, then let me know. It's probably easier in the emails. Was it? Well, no, was it Artisan Rider? The email's in the description, under the description. So look at that, click on that, and you can email me. It's probably easier. And then I'll see that, and if it's a subject I think I can cover, and I've got an opinion on everything, so I'll do that. And I've done it before. People have sent me stuff in, so that's how I'm going to work that for Wednesdays, and I say the Saturdays will be sort of more review stuff. And hopefully you'll get your feedback and see how that goes over the next, well, through to maybe January, and we see how that progresses. But hopefully you've seen the new intro for Wednesday, and so you'll see the difference between the two. Right, so that is that. Now let's go to the meat and potatoes. So these bikes, so you can see on the thumbnail I've put wow what on those bikes. So let's cover the first one. So that Norton, and there's obviously been a lot of bikes released or shown to the the journalists, and I think public getting there, and YouTubers getting in, all the rest of it. I must go to that now. I might go to that next year if I can. The Norton. Now I like Norton. I think they're one of the last great British brands still making their bikes, well, to a point. Weren't they making them in the UK at the Donington factory and all that sort of stuff? I'm not going to go into wherefores on that, but the bike itself, that in particular the Norton Manx R, I think that looks fabulous. And do you know what it reminded me of when I first saw that, the pictures of that, and the people had done a bit of a walk round on it. And I think it was Moto Bob had a more one-to-one time with that bike a little bit, and looking at the rear light and all that sort of stuff. It reminded me of that Aston Martin motorbike that they produced. It's a bit of a vanity project, I suppose, one that Aston Martin bike, but it's got that feel of exclusivity about it. It's got such a clean line, and there's the people that have designed that have. Do you remember when I did the Enfield Goen, that they've understood about line and design and bringing art into it? It's people probably already going, I'm not listening to this channel anymore, it's nonsense. But do you know what I mean? You look at that and you just think, wow, isn't that styled beautifully? I don't know how well it'll go. I dare say it will sound epic. The sad thing, whenever you look at these bikes at EICMA and that, they never have number plates on, so you've always got that downer with a number plate they have to stick on it somewhere. It's a shame, isn't it, really, that we can't do something more design friendly than horrible plates that go on bikes. They really spoil the look of a bike, can't they? Some bikes get enhanced by it, they really spoil it. Do you think we'd have this system now where the only people that need to read a number plate would be the police or AMPR systems, and it'll be like a tag which is on the vehicle, like a lot of the dark charge, it reads it at moments, which is going to come in it eventually, I suppose. But I just think that if that's the bike that's going to go to the public, it's going to be expensive, isn't it? But I just think I think that's the right way to go for Norton. I think they should be making bikes which are really exclusive, not for us, like for me, for the masses. It should be, it's a bike you save up all your money for, isn't it? We can only have one bike. You remember the one bike thing I did, and I think that's the sort of thing that it's the sort of bike that I imagine you have a garage, right, quite a big garage, and then you think, I'm going to go for a ride, and you walk through a door, you shut the door, it's pitch black, and you press some switches, click, 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 and all the lights go dunk, dunk, dunk onto your bike, don't they? And it's got that sort of feel about it. I just think it's really lovely, and I hope they keep up that standard of real beautiful craftsmanship. I know the 916 had, people said it wasn't. Yeah, it had quite a difficult birth, didn't it? But I know when I rode that 916, I just thought there were some beautiful touches on that bike, which really made it quite exclusive. And they've almost sort of given those things away, which is such a shame. But whoever's got those bikes, I think, they'll be cherished. I really do. And I think that will be. I'll make one mention of what looked like the adventure style touring bike. I'm not going to say any more about that. I don't think companies like that need to go into that world. I know it's quite a dominant market in the motorbike world, but don't go there, Norton. I can't see the point. Stick to those classic, beautiful, you know, real design icons, and I think that's the sort of bike that could be. I imagine that bike in JPS colours. Wouldn't that be cool? Can you imagine that in a JPS colour? It'd be great, wouldn't it? But you just can't have cigarettes anymore, so it don't work. Anyway, yeah, Norton, great. I like that. I think that's a really, really nice place to go. Interested to see what you think. I don't know what the price is going to be. It's going to be probably astronomical, but whatever. You know, great design and engineering always is, isn't it? But we'll wait to see. So that's the Norton. Let me know what you think about the Norton. The next one, now this was really came out of nowhere, didn't it, really? And is that BSA Thunderbolt, they're calling it, isn't it? Now it looks good. It looks good, but I've got some interesting points about this bike. Now they're using as far as I'm aware, they're using the Bantam engine, or the engine that's in that Bantam, which is that 335cc single with 29 horsepower. Now, I think it looks good. You know, if that's your finished product, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And I think it'll be available from sort of early next year, spring next year, something like that. What I find really interesting about that bike, a few points really. Now, let's discuss the engine. Now, the engine, I think, is actually a nice engine. I know it's only 29 horsepower, but I think it does perform much better in, I don't know, modern terms. I can't really explain that. Than say the J series engines. I think it is a step up from those engines. Although I love a J series, and I'm going to come back onto the J series in a minute. But when I rode that Bantam, fitting it into an adventure bike like that, into a small introductory sort of area of adventure bike, which I think the Enfield Hemi 411 filled and did really well. I think with you have to stay with me here, the 411, now that's sort of deceased, has become a bit of a classic, hasn't it? And a lot of people buy those now because they're cheap. You can get them cheap, although the prices are quite stable, I think. And to get a good one, people are sort of scrambling to get good ones, aren't they? I think that's where BSA have gone. I think they've gone to try and fill that void slightly. You know, people accepted the lack of power out of that Hemi, and they saw it as one of its, almost like its strength, really. Its quirk. You know, it just did its own thing. There was nothing else in that market to do the same as that. And I think that BSA, if it proves to be good, I think that will fill that. Now, it's going to have two problems, isn't it? It's got to be priced right. If it's below 5,000, if it's something like 4,995, I think it could be a success. And I think that engine, the Bantam engine, will work well in that environment. I think it will give you that slight Hemi feeling of the underdog a little bit, but there's enough go in that Bantam engine to please a lot of people. I think it would be the engine that people wish that the Hemi had. You know, because the other problem with the Hemi that I had, and I remember I had two of these, is that they were great to ride and they had real character, but I always found the engines a little bit knocky, and I think that was to do with the fueling and all the rest of it. And you know, companies like Hitchcock's came along and did a lot of work on those, but you had to do a lot of work on them to really make them, you know, far more usable. Not that it wasn't usable, but it, you know, just to give it that something more. And people weren't going to go down the route of changing cams and all that sort of stuff. It was going to get expensive for what you would, the improvements you were getting. I don't think it's worth it. So I think that Bantam engine will work really well in a small adventure bike. I think it looks like they've kept the weight low. It's about 185 kilos, which is really good because you're going to need to put luggage on there, aren't you? Whether you put, I'm not a huge lover of hard luggage, but you're going to put some luggage on there. You're going to need it to lug you around a little bit. And we know that the Hemi, you know, was 24 horsepower, and people would put, you know, 3 metal boxes on there, that would drag people around. So it's going to be better than that, isn't it? You're already at an advantage, and the 411 Hemi was much heavier than that, wasn't it? What was it, about 207 kilos or more than that, maybe 210, I've got 215, can't remember. So you're already at a weight advantage and a power advantage. So I think it could be good. It looks like it's got a nice LCD screen and stuff like that. It looks quite simple. They've given it that that sort of rally style front to it. It's a little bit modern KTM, a little bit Tenere. It's got that style. So they've looked at the styling of that and sort of this is what people are going for. So I think if they had to turn the dash round to portrait rather than landscape, I think that would make some difference as well. So interesting, I like it. One downside, I think, though, is the name. You know that BSA have now obviously got, you know, they've got a box of names that they bought, haven't they? That's part of the package. So they're going through these box and thinking what name suits. I don't think they need to do that anymore. I can't see the point. You know, they'll put it in their advertising, the Thunderbolt. You know, it was I don't even know what the Thunderbolt looked like. So I'll try and find one and put it on the screen for you. But you know, you're going to get the Rocket. You're going to get this. All these bike names are going to come up. I don't see the point. Do you know what I would have done? Because the engine is pretty much the Bantam engine, I would have just called it the Bantam X or something, or the Bantam Trials. I don't know, anything like that, Bantam Trail. I don't think you have to keep resurrecting these names, because I think that pees people off a little bit. So, you know, start doing your, you know, Honda do it, the CB500, the 500X, the NC750, NC750. It doesn't matter. I think it just gives a hint of what the bike can do. So, yeah, stop pulling the names out of the bag, BSA. Just start naming the bikes with fresh names, I think. Bring it up to the modern age. You're not dealing in classics anymore. When you're going into that area, you're not dealing in classic bikes. So don't grab a classic name and try and tie it to the bike. I don't think that works. The next one, now this is a bit more contentious, isn't it? This is the Royal Enfield Bullet 650. Now, you might tell that I'm a bit confused by this. In the first instance, I've said this before. I think Royal Enfield, they flogged that 650 to death now. Now they had a great result with the Bear 650. I think that's a fabulous bike. Another bike I'd really like to own. I think that's a great bike. And it was really well designed and thought out and all the rest of it. Based on the Interceptor, you know, a few tweaks on that, and it just made it a fabulous looking bike. It's incredibly popular, isn't it? We had also then the classic 650, which I think actually missed the mark. I know a lot of people are big fans of that, and I'm a big fan of that 650. You know, the Interceptor I had, I thought that was a great engine. I think that is a classic engine. I think the classic 650 missed the mark. I think it was too much. I don't think it worked, but that's my own personal view on it. We have the Shotgun. Now I think the Shotgun is actually a very good bike based on that platform. I think it's distinguishable enough from all the others that it's actually really good. And I rode one of those in France and I really liked it. I think it's right for a customization, that Shotgun. But it's their worst selling version of that 650 pound. It might even be their worst selling bike, I think. Someone was saying to me the other day. So quite unusual though. I was quite surprised. But you've also got, I think the Interceptor is actually on hold at the moment. They're not manufacturing that at the moment, which I think is a real shame. I think that's a loss. I hope they you know, maybe develop it a little bit more and bring it back out again. And then you got the Continental, everything, and bikes like that. So they've got a lot of bikes on that platform. You've got the Super Meteor, you've got those bikes on that platform. But when you look at the Super Meteor, the classic 650, they're so closely aligned in look and a few tweaks. And now you bring out the Bullet 650. I don't think it works. Although the funny thing is, I think it actually looks slightly better than the classic 650, but it does have that rather horrible seat that the Bullet had. it's not a nice looking seat, and I don't think the Bullet, when you compare the 350 Bullet to the classic 350, there's no competition. The classic 350 is a far superior looking bike. It just works. And I didn't really understand why they carried on making the Bullet 350. I just couldn't see the point, apart from having the name. The other thing is that the Bullet 650, or let's say the Bullet 500, take that first. The reason the Bullet 500 worked is because it's a big single thumper. And when you see that bike in particular, you don't see it that much in the UK, but when you see it in India, you immediately recognise one's coming because it's a dum 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 dum. They always put straight through exhausts on all the rest of it, and that's the real signature of that bike. It's a big single, and it works. They're not fast or anything, but they're just, if you've got a 500 single, you've made it in India. That's the thing. To then put the 650 engine in that, well, it's not a Bullet, is it? They've just adapted the Meteor frame on the classic 650 frame, and they've put that seat on it to make it look more, it's going to sound funny, more dowdy than it really is. It's going to have more plain paintwork and all the rest of it. That's where I think they went funny with the classic 650. It works okay in a couple of colours, but in some of the colours it's just too much, in my mind. So I don't think there was any need to make a Bullet. Why did you make a Bullet? I couldn't see the point. I can't see the point in it. And I think this is a problem that some companies have. And I always refer back to the Fender guitars, because I like to play a guitar a little bit, and my son's a fantastic guitar player. But the Fender, they have so many different versions of their, if you like, the Stratocaster. You have the Japanese version, you have the Korean versions, you have the Indian versions, you have the Squire versions, Chinese versions. There's so many that they're all competing with each other, and I think that's what Enfield are doing slightly. Their financial brains are far better than mine, but they're competing with their own products, and that they started to do this before, and I think they're doing it again. It's almost like they're clutching at straws. I will just put that out new. Let's put that one out. We can do that. We can do it on the same production line. We just put a different seat on it and a few different bits here and there, and it works. And I don't think it does. I don't think the classic 650 has been that much of a good sales success, not in the UK. I just wish Royal Enfield, they're not a poor company. They can't be a poor company, are they? They make millions of bikes a year. Or sell millions of bikes a year. You think that they would have enough, development costs or finance to go, let's make a 500J series. Let's do a 500J series and stick that in the bike like that and have it a nice big thumpy single again. Boost the power to 30 horsepower, maybe 35 horsepower, and I think that would have been a great bike. I'm just not sure why they're not developed. Maybe they are in the background, but they just don't see... They're knocking out these bikes on these platforms, but don't seem to be developing the engines. I know we've got the Sherpa, which is great, but that's not classically styled, if that makes sense. And I just think it'd have been great if they would have, they'd be developing their engines a bit more and doing work like that. Because I know we've now got this talk about the 750 Hemi coming out possibly, haven't we? We've got the 440 Scram, haven't we, in India and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wish they would develop that engine a bit more. The J series, you think it'd be right, put a bigger barrel on it, bigger piston, put some more fuel through it. That's how we would do it, wouldn't we? So yeah, what are your thoughts on the Bullet 650? I think it's the wrong way to go. I don't think it'll work. I can't see anybody buying it in the UK. Why would you buy that? You're going to buy the classic 650, aren't you, really, over that? You'll probably find it'll be very similarly priced. But we shall see on that. Give us your thoughts, everybody, because I'll be quite interested to see what you think. What was your immediate reaction? Just two other honourable mentions from EICMA, anyway, before I go, because I bored you enough. The B&W, now the GS 450, isn't it? That look good. That looks really good. I think the problem with B&W always is, though, is that once you spec'd it up, to have wheels and handlebars. Because you never get anything standard on a BMW. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be about £5 million. So I hope they can keep the price down. But I think it looks really good. And I think that the KTM 390 Adventure, is it the new one? I think that looks really good. I think it's a really good looking bike, but it seems to have a few teething problems, doesn't it, with its software? Oh, KTM, come on, sort this stuff out. But yeah, I like that. So we're in that. People are still fighting hard in that small adventure bike arena, aren't they? Which is where I think coming back to that BSA Thunderbolt, I think it's going to undercut them, and it might seem strange, undercut them in performance and price, hopefully. And I think it'll create a little niche for itself, which has been vacated now sort of by the Hemi 411. But I hope you give me your thoughts on that and see what you think. So there we are. Once again, thanks for everybody supporting the channel. Let's push it on. I want to try and get to my target now. I always put targets in it. If I can get to 20,000 by the end of the year, that'd be unbelievable. That'd be amazing. So we'll see how we go with that. And watch out for the reviews and stuff coming out. We've got next Saturday's episode. We're doing this HFK dash cam. It's not one of the ones with CarPlay and all the rest of it on there. It's literally just purely a dash cam. And me being me, I said to the company, I'll review it, but I want to try it thinking out the box. Can we use it as a training aid for some of the IAMS instructors thing to record people when they're doing it? So it's quite a funny episode, so you'll watch that. So there we are. Some interesting chats coming up on the Wednesdays. I've got Machine Head Moto coming up. So I've been in their coffee shop, workshop, shop. So I was there yesterday looking at that Hemi 450 that they'd rallied. Put all the rally kit on there and talking to Dave about what he does with the bikes and the rest of it. So that's an interesting chat for a Wednesday. So watch out for that. Wednesday's bike chat, and then it's normal for the Saturdays. Everything will be in there, and the odd little bonus episode that I put out. Right, I bored you enough. Right, take care. I'm going to eat. I haven't got a Twix today. I've got a bit of shortbread. Right, I'm going to crack on, get this edited ready for Saturday because I'm getting close to that already. And I'll see you soon. Please ride safe. Take care and look after yourselves. See you soon.